I always thought about harming myself.
I'm shy. I struggled with making friends.
I never thought I could do anything. I have extremely low self esteem.
Lately, I've been eating my pain away. Just throw it back up. I've been struggling to lose weight. Somebody said I don't fit in just because I wear my hair the way I like it.
1 out of 5 American girls suffer from mental health problems. Don't be that girl. Talk to someone.
Those thoughts I had are long gone, for I have a future I need to get to.
In order to get better, I had to do better. I learned how to make friends.
I believe in myself. That's when everyone else did, I set an example.
Instead of me eating everything, I started watching my calories. The weight is falling off. I wanted to change my hair, but I decided it was for me. It's for me.
A PSA from the Curvy Girl Project.
And welcome, good morning. Welcome to Expose Under the Sun, sponsored by the Detroit Native Sun newspaper. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and stay tuned. We have a very informative next half an hour with you. So stay tuned. I've got a very special guest on the show with me today. His name is Mr. Keon Clinton. And for those of you that may not know who he is, once we pan over and I have our expert engineer here in the studio, Tim Smith, to go and put him on camera, I know the ladies will probably be fixated on his face and probably be ready to say, oh, wow, I can't take my eyes off this young man. But, again, we are live. Our show is called Expose Under the Sun. Our call-in numbers are area code 313-868-0342, 313-868-0351, 313-868-4336. And our website is www.tv33whpr.com. And you are watching us live today from the awesome cities of Highland Park, Michigan, under the auspices of the Honorable Mayor Glenda McDonald, as well as the phenomenal city of Detroit, Michigan, under the auspices of the Honorable Mayor Mike Duggan. But there's been a lot of things that's been going on in the news, this past week. I do want to say one thing, too, that UAW has got a new president, and I hope that people can, get an opportunity to go and get a chance to meet him and can work well with him as well as his administration. But at the same time, too, I do want to say thank you to Governor Whitmer and the members of Congress up in Lansing that made the decision to repeal the right to work. So again, my hat goes off to all of the state reps, state senators, as well as to the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, for repealing the right to work here in the state of Michigan. I just want to say, before I get started, just want to say, give a little thanks to my friend, my partner, Mr. Keith Bennett. And a lot of you knew Keith from other organizations that he was involved in, but he put on a phenomenal men's program down at the Charles H. Wright African American Museum this past weekend, and had different generational panels, and from the Generation Zs, Generation Xs, the baby boomers, and millennials. And it was phenomenal because of the fact that it gives people an opportunity to go and find out what a lot of those generations are thinking about, what's on their mind, and it gives the audience an opportunity to go and glean the information, the wisdom from them, as well as for the audience to be able to go and disseminate their information to the viewing audience that was viewing and listening to the panel discussions that were going on. There's probably a lot of people that don't really realize, too, that we've got a lot of wisdom here in this city of Detroit. And Keith, because of having this program, I was fortunate to meet my guest today. And, you know, he pretty much like was saying that this is for the legacy. And a lot of times people don't think about the legacy that we leave. We have to go and we have to nurture our children, our young people, our students. And if we don't, there will be an empty chapter in our books. This young man that I have on the show with me today, he's written a book. He's only 32 years young, and he's accomplished a lot, you know, in these 32 years that he's been on this earth. But without further ado, I definitely want to go and give you an opportunity to go and meet my special guest, get acquainted with him. And I'm sure if we invite him back again, we'd be nice to him. We can get him to come back on the show with us again. But my special guest today is a gentleman. His name is Mr. Keon Clinton. Mr. Clinton, thank you for coming on Expose Under the Sun today.
Thank you for having me.
He is the execution coach for an organization called 1% Better.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this conversation. So basically, you grew up in one of the worst zip codes, as you say, in the city of Detroit.
Yeah.
Tell what that zip code was and talk about how did you make it out and what obstacles you were dealing with when you were growing up in that zip code.
Absolutely. So, you know, first and foremost, thank you for having me on the show.
Very welcome.
It's truly an honor. And so I'm born and raised Detroit, Michigan, from 48205.
Okay.
And, you know, 48205 is top 10 worst listed zip codes to live in the United States of America. And that's what I was born into. So I inherited a lot of things that came within that community. You know, I started selling drugs at the age of 9 years
What side
old.
of town? That's close
East
to
side.
what? That's
7 Mile and Hoover.
So that's near Osborne High School.
Yep, I went to Osborne High School.
Brenda Scott.
Brenda Scott, yep.
Okay.
I went to Osborne High School as well. And, you know, started selling drugs at the age of 9 years old. And since then,
What compelled you to want to sell drugs at the age of 9?
well, it really wasn't by choice. You know, my cousin, who I looked up to at the time, you know, he would tell me, hey, take this book bag to the guy a couple blocks up the street, and you better not look in it. And I was doing it for years until I got to 12. And at 12, you know, I got inquisitive. So I walked into one of the backyards of a house on the way there, and I looked into it, and I seen the drugs inside it. And when I finally realized that he had me selling drugs all this time, I went back to him and said, hey, well, listen, you know, you have to give me some money so I can buy me some chips and some snacks and some extra foods at the, you know, in the lunch and stuff like that. So, and then that started to grow to where, you know, as I started to get older, we started to be able to move more drugs. And then I fell in love with it because it was making me money. I started to feel like I was taking control over my own life as a man at 13 and 14 years old.
So you were selling drugs from the age of 9 up to 13 or 14?
All the way.
Okay.
Yep.
So were you developing a reputation in the neighborhood?
Absolutely. You know, when my cousin was well known. And, you know, when you come up under somebody who's well known, it's kind of like legacy, if you will, you know. And so it came with some pros. You know, I had men protecting me. I had respect that was given to me just because of who I was associated with. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it also comes with a lot of risk. You know, the sleepless nights, the encounters. I've seen death. I've seen, you know, police plenty of times. I've been arrested countless number of times and, you know, running from the police because that's just the lifestyle that you get, you know. But I was also still in school. I was a scholar student. You know, I was getting straight A's in school. And so I was book smart and street smart. And, you know, when you come up in that world, I always tell people I had the best of both worlds. And I was extremely blessed. God just had a lot of favor over my life for me to get through it, because it wasn't easy, you know. But I was, when you start making money, at 14, 14, we were in strip clubs. And I'm watching us spend $50,000 like it's nothing, because that's the type of money they were bringing in. And, you know, when you're exposed to certain things too soon, it has a lot of consequences. Like, it was hard for me to respect my elders, because I felt like I was a man and could nobody tell me anything. Plus, I was also a taker. If you had something I wanted, I'll take it from you.
So, was your mother, your father, who was in your household?
Yep. So my mother raised us. My father was in and out at the time, and you know, I always tell people, a mother cannot raise a boy into a man, but she can raise a boy into a gentleman. And you know, my mom did her best. She worked 3 jobs, so she worked 3 jobs to provide the house for us. But when you are absent, you know, still, because it was a great cause, she was still absent. So my mom did her best as she could. And it was still like, but I need more. I need somebody else I can look up to, and I can get that protection from. So that's why I went to my cousins in the street. That's why. And my mother didn't know a lot of stuff I used to do.
That was my next question. Did your mother know what you were doing?
I grew up watching my brothers do it. So I was the youngest of 4. So I got smart. You know, my thing is, if she never know, she'll never, you know, have a problem with something she don't know about. So I found ways to sell drugs without being as flashy as most people would. I didn't really care to go out and buy all the chains and the jewelries, and that stuff didn't matter to me. For me, it was like, I need enough money to be able to get up out of the situation that I'm in, because I didn't like my mom working 3 jobs. I've always wanted to retire her, and obviously the job she was working wasn't enough. So I found a way to be in the operation without being too flashy or being too much of a target. And it has its pros, but you know, you say things like, I'm gonna get a certain amount and then I'm gonna get out. You know, I'm gonna get just enough to where, but it never works that way, you know.
So what was the turning point, Keon, that you say at 13 or 14 made you realize this is not what you want to continue doing?
Yeah, so we, a friend of mine, we went to a certain location. We drove out of state to go pick up and do some drop-offs. And we ended up getting set up by somebody in our crew who wanted our position at the time. And my friend, he didn't want to give up the product. And he going back and forth with this guy robbing us, and he got his gun pointed at him. And he's like, if you don't give me this, I'm going to blow your head off. And for whatever reason, he didn't want to give it up. He blew the man's head off right in my lap. And I'm looking like, this is crazy, because I'm watching him walk across the car. And I'm like, this is my last breath.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 13.
13?
And he get over to my side, and as soon as he get over there, I hear these tires screeching up. And the guy he was riding with rolled the window down and said, don't even waste your bullet on that nigga.
Wow.
And I'm like, for God to give me that chance to stare death in the face, you know, I said, God, you gave me another chance. That means I have some purpose here. And I said, as long as you continue to show me the way, I'll do something different. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll do something different. And that was a turning point for me, to where it was just like, there's only 2 roads here, jail or death, down this journey. No matter how good you are at it, no matter how under the radar you want to be, there's only jail or death if you continue to stay in this path. So that was my turning point for me. And it was like, what I feel like I had the best wake-up call, but I also had, like, you know, one of the most, the craziest wake-up calls that somebody can get to the extreme. And I said, I don't want to ever put myself in that position again. And I mean, ever since then, I mean, I kind of changed my ways, and life has been good ever since.
So let's fast forward. So let's fast forward to, did you go to college?
Yes.
I know you said you had. Where'd you go to school at?
Michigan State University.
My man.
Yes, sir.
That was Spartan. Okay.
Yeah, yep, went to Michigan State University, and I got my degree in electrical engineering. And I was there for 7 years. And it wasn't because school was hard. I just actually loved school. And I started to get internships, and they would pay you like $35 an hour. Again, I'm a hustler. So for me, it's like, well, I can come get paid $35 an hour. Let me stay here. So I did like 5 internships and 3 co-ops. And when I got my degree in electrical engineering from 7 years, I retired an engineer in 3 years at the age of 28. I just retired. You know. Only reason I went to school was to be an engineer is because somebody told me they make a lot of money. So I was great at math. I'm like, I didn't want to be a math teacher. And somebody said, engineer, I've always been great with my hands. My dad was a mechanic. So when we were younger, he would always put us under the hood with him and teach us how to actually work on cars. So I joined the robotic team in high school. I always was great with my hands. So after becoming an engineer 3 years, it was like, this is fine. I'm making 6 figures, but I'm unfulfilled. I hate going to work to make this money. So why am I going to work to make this type of money? And at 28 years old, I took my leap of faith. And what's interesting is at 9 years old, when I started to sell drugs, at 9, that's when God told me, he said, you're going to speak my name across this world and lead nations. And I didn't believe God, so I figured I'd take the drug route and do it on my own. But when I finally retired at 28, that's when I said, God, I'm going to follow you wholeheartedly, and I'm going to fulfill the mission you have over my life.
So tell me in terms of so you got that epiphany.
Yeah.
And then what happened next?
So I walked away. You know, I told my supervisor, this is my last day here. And for me, in my head, it was like, I'm taking my leap of faith. God is about to bless me with these contracts, these speaking engagements. I'm about to blow up. And that didn't happen for the first 4 to 5 months. And it was a struggle. I was in a dark place. And I'm like, God, you told me to do this, so you have to provide. And the moment I was at the edge where I'm like, I want to throw in this towel and go get another engineering job because I can make $100 grand. The day before that, the day after that, I got 2 speaking contracts. They were the biggest contracts I've ever had, and that put me in a position where the money I made from those contracts, I could invest into my branding and building my business. And since then, I mean, I went on an 86-stop international tour that same year. And from there, I mean, now 15 countries later, 34 states of impact. You know, we've impacted over millions of people and, 1% at a time. That's why the company is 1% better every single day, mentally, physically, spiritually. 1% at a time is how you reach every goal in life. And I live by it, and I believe in it, and I feel like I am a prime example of what 1% can do.
So now, talk to our viewing and the people that may be listening. Mm-hmm. Talk to our audience about the importance of branding yourself.
Yes. Branding is everything. Branding is everything. It is, from the business side, the most powerful brands are the ones that are easily identified. They're also the most respected, and they get paid the most because they have a brand that's solid. It's a brand, and then from the personal side, it's your reputation. Your brand is truly your reputation. And I always tell folks, your personal brand affects your business brand. You can't separate the two. I know we think we can. They go together. So what I've learned was, okay, Keon, you have a story. You have this mission that you're trying to accomplish, but you have no brand. No one knows 1% better. It doesn't have any true meaning yet. So what I started to do was, I had to create the logo, create the colors, make sure that the font and everything was good. And I said, I want my brand to be high level. I want it to be extremely professional, and I want it to be expensive. Those are the 3 things that I wanted my brand to be. I want to be high level because I believe that the mission and the magnitude of my calling is going to put me in rooms with those 1%ers of the world. That's high level. Extremely professional. I believe in, if you're going to do anything, be professional in how you move because people can respect you for it. And then if you're professional, then you can be expensive. You should be expensive because people pay for quality. People pay for premium. And my brand is premium in the way that we deal with our clients, in the way that we deal with customers, in the way that we deal with the people we serve more than ever. That's one of our pillars. And that's what let people know that we are here not just for self, but we're here to impact our entire community. But if they don't see your brand and respect your brand, it's hard for them to bring you at the table and have that conversation with you.
Now, one thing that we talked about, too, was that when we did the program on Saturday,
yes,
we talked about the fear.
Yes.
We talked about the lessons
Yeah.
that a lot of parents try to instill into
Yeah.
their young children, And you said something interesting on Saturday about a lot of times fear can be put in two different ways.
Yes,
Talk more about that.
absolutely. And fear is so powerful. It is so powerful, and it is so real. I know some people say fear is not real. It is. But fear it has two meanings. You can either be fearful or you can be fearless. And what happens is, I think even back in the day, parenting was, I wanted to make you fearful of me. So they was talking about, if I gave you this look, everything about you is shut down, and you have to be afraid of your parents, which I think is more so reverence, a respect thing versus a fear thing. But we get so fearful of things that it actually stunts our growth. It stunts our creative ability. It stunts us from taking a big risk because we're fearful. But if you instill a fearless mindset, then it's, I can do anything. I am not afraid of being the only person in the room. I'm not afraid of, I walk in rooms now with millionaires and billionaires. I'm not afraid because I'm fearless, because I believe in what God put inside of me. So I tell people now is, instead of making someone fearful, make them fearless, and then they respect you a whole lot more.
So this could also be applicable to managers or bosses.
Absolutely.
At businesses, not just with the mothers and fathers and their
Absolutely.
children, but also with adults.
Yeah, it's
when they
conceptual.
get into the workplace.
It's conceptual. When you think about a coach is a parent, it's a boss, it's a manager, it's a leader, it's a mentor. They're all coaches. All of them fit in that same umbrella. This is just a concept, and that's one of the things I teach in my book. Concepts don't change. Like when I started selling drugs, I wanted to be around a group of men who would protect me, who would love on me, and who would share things with me so that I can get the things I wanted at that time. When I went to Michigan State, I joined a fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
man.
Yes, sir.
I knew there was something about you I really like. Okay,
Yes, sir.
I don't know, but well, I got to flash the colors and stuff right here.
Absolutely.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
And,
That'd be another whole show right there in itself.
Yes, sir.
But go ahead.
And I joined the fraternity because I wanted to be around a group of men who will protect me, who will provide for me, and who can help me get the things that I needed in that moment. Same concept, two different angles. One angle almost took me to death, and one angle was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. So when you start thinking about the concept of fear, now it's, I want you to be fearless, because that'll give you a certain level of confidence, and not only you, but also me as well.
So now, we can start talking about alphas
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
for the rest of the show. But, I do want you to mention your book and,
Yes.
and talk about what inspired you to write your book.
Yep, so my book is called Healing the Living Dead. Habits that shift you from a morgue mentality to a Forbes mentality. And, for me, I think a lot of people are walking around physically alive, but mentally, morally, and spiritually dead. And you're just existing. You're just going with the flow. And you are created with a purpose, on purpose, so why are you just going with the flow? Because there's no direction and clarity there. And I remember when I was in that space and I had this morgue mentality, I never really cared about living past a certain age when I was younger, because when they asked me what did I want to be when I grew up, I said alive. If I could make it to 18, that was enough for me, because we don't grow up seeing people make it past 18. And that was the morgue mentality. I was only thinking from death and deficit and not being good enough and not being worthy enough. And in that space, there's only so much you're willing to do. If I can just get a little bit, I'll be fine. And I'll be satisfied, when it's like God has said, you are more than a conqueror, which means there's nothing in this world you cannot conquer. And you are made to be a king. So I went from the morgue mentality to the Forbes mentality. And when you hear Forbes, most people think money, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like a Forbes mentality, being that I actually made the Forbes list now, I understand that wealth is a mindset. It's not even about the money. It's about resources. It's about believing in the fact that there is abundance right in front of you of opportunity if you take full advantage of it. And so my book talk about this little boy who grew up in 4205, who was lost and confused and always been powerful, always been sharp, always been smart, but nobody instilled those things in me and told me that and set me down and said, Keon, you are a king. You can do this, 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 and this. And I found some ways on how I shifted my perspective, because life is it's all about perspective. The same person that cries about the rain and hate the rain, the other person be like, thank God for the rain because it's actually helping my harvest.
Well, in the few minutes that we have left, I want you to mention, we talked about ego.
Yes.
Talk about ego and just give you a little, let's say, your Cliff's Notes
Yeah,
version of what
absolutely.
ego is to you.
Yeah.
And then I want you to give your contact information. So
Okay.
if somebody wanted to obtain a copy of your book or get you to come out and speak, at
Absolutely.
their organizations or, workshops and things like that. But talk about ego real quick.
Yeah, ego is one of the biggest things that are killing us as a people. It is it is killing relationships. It's killing success, if you will. And I always tell people, ego it's edging God out, because when you think about ego, that's putting self in front of everything else. Ego won't allow you to submit. And if you can't submit to something bigger and greater than you, then how can you expect other people to submit to you? And that's ego's best friend is pride. And they love to hang out with each other. So if you are full of ego, at some point you're going to go and find that pride, and now it just makes it worse. So I always tell people, I say, you got to humble yourself. You got to realize that you haven't always been where you are now. And that's one of the things for me. Yes, I'm an international speaker and best-selling author, and that's great. And I made the Forbes list. That's great. And I understand God is providing that, because there were a moment when I was homeless for 9 months out the year, sleeping in my car for 8 months and 9 months out the year. So who would I be to finally get my prayers answered and then walk around with ego like I am the sole provider of my thing? So I always tell people, just humble yourself and be grateful. Gratitude will change your attitude through everything else. And if you lead with gratitude, ego has to suppress.
Well, I got to take that gratitude.
Yes.
Say that again.
Listen, gratitude affects your attitude, which ultimately affects your altitude. That's the reality, and that's how I live my life. I'm grateful for everything. Literally, there's no such thing as a bad day when your eyelids open. That's the way I look at it.
That is so true.
Yes, sir.
Give your contact information. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, they
Absolutely.
want to hear more, they want to get more of these, these gems that you're
Yes.
disseminating out, and also if they want to purchase a copy of your book.
Absolutely. Well, if you're looking to book me, to reach out, you can just, I was telling people you can Google me, but you can also go on KeonClinton.com. That's KeonClinton.com. And that's on all social media platforms as well. Keon Clinton. My phone number is 248-606-1225.
Proud of this young man.
Thank you.
Like I said, the legacy is being left in some
Yes.
great hands right now.
I'm excited to carry that
and,
torch.
and it's so interesting because when I look at other people, I see Miss Claudine Jackson.
Yeah.
That's that has a show here on this station.
Yeah.
And when I think about her and the legacy that she's leaving,
Absolutely.
and to her daughter,
Yeah.
Cindy Davis, so I see others
Yeah.
that are really making this legacy work.
Yeah.
And I see we're in good hands.
Yes, sir.
So again,
Thank you.
I do want to thank you for coming on Expose Under the Sun today. Before Tim tells me to wrap up, is there anything else, Mr. Clinton, that you'd like to say before we wrap up?
To anyone that's in a position where you're ready to throw in a towel, where you feel like your life is not full of worth, full of purpose, and you're just confused, just remember this. I was homeless 8 months, and I was ready to check out. And God said, you are too busy chasing the bigger things, and you're not grateful for the small things. And I said, God, if I can be just a little bit better every single day, I'll be satisfied. And then he birthed 1% better in my spirit. So I'm just going to leave you with, every day that you wake up, ask yourself, how can I get at least 1% better today? Just 1%. 1% is 15 minutes out of your day. Take 15 minutes out of your day and do something that can add value to who you are or who you're becoming. And over time, that compound interest, it'll help you reach your goals. It'll make you happier. It'll make you healthier. It'll give you more meaning for life. So just never forget 1% at a time, and you'll be happier at the end of the day.
My special guest today has been Mr. Keon Clinton, and he is with an organization called 1% Better. But I do want to thank Sharon Dumas for allowing me an opportunity to go and be on the set with you today. And again, if you'd like to get a copy of the Detroit Native Sun newspaper, you can contact Ms. Valerie Lockhart at 313-457-5944. And again, have a great rest of this morning and have a day that you will say, I'm going to make certain that I'm going to get better, because God gave you this opportunity by putting your eyelids up in the air, and you can do better. Peace. Have a great rest of the day.
Here at the Full and Fabulous Curvy Girl Project, we don't just focus on health, beauty, and self-esteem. We also offer an amazing summer program for young ladies ages 12 to 18. For more information, visit our website at fullandfabulous.org. See you soon.